What I want to show you this time is the loose way that we can work on the background more. These lovely plants and flowers here and large leaves. Of course we're doing the figure as well, show you just how building up one shape to another can quite quickly give you a very complicated picture, or what appears to be very complicated, rather than having to worry about all of these little individual shapes, that we can just put one colour in the right positions and like a jigsaw it will just appear without having to panic or worry or plan too much ahead. Well, as you can see, that was treated very, very loosely, and yet we can still see the leaf forms in it. Even with these just loose shapes as if they're being painted in by putting pieces of a jigsaw together, you can see the leaf forms appearing. So in a matter of just over an hour, we've painted this whole picture. Okay, straight on from the one of Liz with the profile closer up, and now we're going to go a little bit further away, same sort of scene with the light shining through from the background, but this time with the flowers and a bit more gardenscape around it, and we're still going to treat it fairly loosely, build up very loosely, work onto her, and then come around with the flowers a bit more tightly here, leaving it a little more of a vignette around the outside. So once again, we want to start with just building up a basic background, and to do that I'm going to go back into the same sort of colours again, yellow ochre and a little bit of white and a little bit of cerulean blue to give my basic green first of all. Blue-green here in the background. Taps on my brush there just to get it to soak in a bit. Coming around her profile here fairly quickly. If you know me, I work very rapidly. And I try to work in the same sort of way as I would work if I was actually working out in the on plein air in the wild. Let the board soak the paint in. It wants to be fairly cool and fairly blue because it's in the background and we want the sun to shine out, and the sun is a lot warmer. Back there it goes, very cool. So I'm going to take a bit more blue, but this time I'm going to take some cobalt blue, which is cooler still, and go behind her head here. It also wants to be a bit darker as well because we want these bright flowers, these yellow marigolds and so on, to shine through in a moment. And we'll just feather, this is feathering now, little strokes of the brush, just feather those colours back in again here. Take some of that blue and bring it through into here as well, just giving the feeling of a darker, cooler green going through here. Because the board's so absorbent, we need a fair amount of terps into the paint just to get it to soak in well. Here we've got a much deeper green, so I'm going to take the ultramarine and a little touch of the yellow ochre and give myself a slightly soft but warmer green down into there, as if the hedge is coming up through there. And then we'll take a little bit of chrome yellow and cerulean just to make a slightly warmer green coming in there. Up here there's a very warm, or much warmer, a little bit of Indian red and ochre shed, which has had a bit of green into it as well, so I'm going to come back into there with some green in a moment. I'll bring some of that warmth through into there. Just to feel some planking in it. Really giving an impression of something, and here it's much darker, so I'm going to take the burnt sienna and some ultramarine and just find the edge of that feel to these planks a little bit that are coming down the the doors. See how simple that is, just to indicate and bring out this dark. A bit of hedging going on behind there. And over the top of that, some lemon yellow, a little bit of the cerulean. Just to have a little bit of soft light catching over the leaves. I might put a bit darker back into there in a moment as well, but gradually see. Let's just find the edge of these, bring in the colour that's around it. I want it lovely and soft. Soft light, background light. A little bit of blue to come into here perhaps, a little bit of the cerulean and the white. Just an indication of these blue-greens. Maybe even a little touch of pink. Not much, just a sort of bluey pink, grey. These ageing bits of door panel. There we are. Last evening light reflecting on the leaves there. Taking that same colour and going up and around her head here, there's a pinky bluey grey going on there. Let's just feel that a moment. And some of that dark colour we made earlier with the burnt sienna and the ultramarine is coming down a bit darker into here. And making a slight composition of a curve there as the lawn comes around. These darks coming back, which will help make the flowers stand out shortly. Just scumbling with the brush now, just flicking the brush over the surface to give the indication of these darks. Then again we've got some of the greens coming into there as well, just to break it up and give it a little bit of a lift. And there we go. About there, ready for the painting of the face soon. While I'm at it, let's look at getting these greens at least established here. We can put the lighter colours in afterwards. So, yellow ochre and the cobalt, and this is our basic mid-green. Just leaving some of these areas of the MDF, the hardboard, for the brighter colours of the flowers later, but I just want to establish at the moment a wash of darker colour. A little bit more cerulean mixing with it this time to give a slightly cooler, more bluey green. These leaves were a lot bluer, these lovely artichoke thistle leaves. Let's establish a few of those as well. See how loosely again I want to work. Get the board covered, get rid of the lots of lovely cool colours to play against the golden warms after this. Slightly warmer grey paint coming behind here. Don't paint down things all the time, paint across them and feel them as well. Go a little bit of rose and with the cerulean blue and a tint of the green. Start to find the cooler colours of the flesh tones. Paint those highlights in a moment, just get the shadow colours in for the minute. These soft cools which we can bring over the highlights later. Let's just get these cools established. Just see the drawing showing through at the minute, so I know I'm going to be working later. I want that grey showing through here, through the hair, so that she's almost blending in with the background there. And when you find a colour, you often find it's going on in a lot more of the places as well, so I want that to be coming just through into there. Right, finished with our biggest 1-inch brush. To move down brushes now, that was a nice number 8 filbert nylon. Come down. I think now we'll go to a a flat and a nylon number 4. Start establishing some of these other colours on her body. I'll take a little bit of the chrome yellow and touch a little touch of rose into that, just to start to find the light areas. The back of the hand could be a little lighter still yet, but we'll just establish these first. We have to come back in with a bit of dark in a moment and just bring that back a bit. I think it wants to be a little bit pinker, but also a little bit of warmth going on her shoulder just here, just to catch the light. And it's very, very light back here, catching sunlight as the hair's been just caught up in some of the plant as she's come down to pick the flowers. So you see we're just starting to feel the lights and darks. Now a little touch of cooler, a little touch of mauve into that, and we'll start to bring that warmer colour across her arm. Down her neck here. Onto her cheek, chin. Very soft light then, reflected colours. A bit of reflected warmth underneath her arm as well. Just feel the muscle structure of the arm. Gradually mould the face with a little bit of light, reflected lights wherever they're going. The dark we made earlier using the brown and the ultramarine blue is a very useful dark. We'll do it again, because we can make it cooler or warmer, whichever we like, and start to look at the darks we should have on the face with that. Those earrings again that we did earlier. Little swirly bits of hair. Don't be too far ahead. Just indicate her eyes a bit. Again. And underneath her nose. And her mouth. A bit finer there in a moment, just cut it back, there we go. We need a little bit more detail there in just a moment. And it's all being done by giving the impression of something rather than actually painting in detail. It's an impression of a hand there. Tend to do more. The dress just showing in between the leaves. Of course, where it is darker, we make it a bit darker. Yeah, we almost have the figure in as much detail as we need. Of course, there are other darks going on around here as well, which I want to put in. And there we are. We've pulled away there now, look. An Impressionist painting done with Impressionism. We still need to go darker in places, so let's bring some of this deeper blue, this ultramarine blue into here. Feeling the darks of the hair. The hand stands out a little because of the dark behind. So we'll do that as well. Little counterpoints of light against dark that make the difference. And a much deeper colour underneath our arm here. A bit of Indian red now. and then some chrome yellow into it. So it just deadens it a bit but gives it a more golden. We're going to go much lighter than that in just a moment, but not quite yet. Okay, with the cools a little bit more here. And the way the blue's coming underneath that arm. Just softening it a bit more than it is. Let's see what happens when we start to play with some cadmium orange and white. I think it should be rather fun the way this thing suddenly comes to life now. There, you see, they're much warmer. This is cadmium orange and white then. I'm going to need a lemon yellow and white yet. We're not finished by any means. Just catching over her arm a little bit here. And at the back there. These lovely light areas of sunlight gleaming through suddenly here. And cascading down, quite a bit stronger in the orange in places. Now let's see what happens when we use some cooler yellow, the lemon yellow with white. That's just how different the effects of light will be here. Look how much cooler it is. Much lighter and cooler than the orange. We really do need that yellow in there to help make the orange look more orange and make the light really shine. I'm going to paint a little hair in, that's the point. What I'm trying to show you is that we're indicating, we're giving an impression, we don't have to do everything in great detail. Now we'll go to a proper green. We'll take a bright green, which is sort of like an emerald green with a bit of yellow in it, and let's just see what happens when we start to put in some really nice strong bits of proper green colouring to give the sunshine amongst these leaves. And tidy all this up as I go along. I'm just going to give the indications at the moment. But these warms make such a difference, you see. Just letting sunlight catch all the tips of them. Slightly duller green shadows of some of these marigolds before we put the brighter colours in. Let's lose these bits of hardboard just showing still. And by making these flowers more orange still, we're able to make the yellows look paler. Right, I think now we need to come back in with a bit more detail in a moment. We'll just get a few more of these reds in. I think we need to establish, just show you how the colours can work, how they will affect the colours next to them as this is doing now. I'm going to lay in some rose into this face, which I think will help to bring out the feeling of light, reflected light coming on in and around and behind. Now let's take some of that red and just look what's happening in and around the back of the head here to make that even warmer. beautiful colours. If you're an impressionist, you're looking for this beauty of colour and light and atmosphere. Now I'm adding some rose to pink, so some rose to white, which is giving me a much brighter pink just here. These tiny touches of light that can just make such a difference. So a little bit of chrome and white now, and the difference again in these yellows, totally different again. Really start to see how I can make these colours sing out. I love that word, colours singing, because that's what we want to happen. We want a symphony of sound and in this case colours. It's very musical, painting like this, I think. Just by the sheer beauty of colour we can do this, and I'm going to make the greens come back into the shadows a bit here again, reflected lights. And keep your eye open for these colours. A few brush strokes, however roughly done. If the right colours are in the right places and the right shapes relevant one to another, see how things start to come now. Here in this little bit of flower there's some blue, and that's a very important blue. It's nice and clean, and it will make the red shine out more. Might not take much at any time, but when you do it, it's got to be pure and the right colour. Get the feeling of just coming through here a bit. Now back in with the darks, but I'm going to need to find a brush. So now I'm going to work down to a little bit more detail of the drawing on the figure, face and head. I'm down to around number 8 now. I'm going to come down to around number 6 now, to give me a little bit of a point, not too much of one, just to look at areas like this, the ear, and drawing here and there. Let's look at these bits of dark that make quite a difference. They need to be plonked in quite firmly. The colours going on amongst this lot. Coming down to the deep, very deep blues down here, some Prussian blue. That's some of that really deep Prussian blue on my brush. For down here, quite different to the purple. And some of those darks happening in back here to also aid the lights. Just little strokes, but putting these spots in the right places, that's what's so important. These very strong darks helping to make the light seem lighter. Find the nose again. Come in the refraction. Same here. And just where the nostrils are, up inside there a little more. Don't want to do too much there, lose the shape. Here we have, so come back and soften things a bit. I've got to find the drawing again, but hopefully I'm bringing back again now. The tiniest mark can make such a difference, that's the problem. And here I'm just experimenting with that just the smallest mark in the right place can make or break it. Same with the nose here. And you see now we're almost there, I think. We need a few more highlights on little bits like this, the hand, and just to make the fingers work a bit better. And a little bit more smile just there. I think we're about there. Don't do much more. 2 more little highlights here and there maybe, but that's it. Capture that reflected light on the end of the fingers and the flowers. Small things that could matter. And that painting is almost there, I think. Just need a few more little lines of decoration and at the plant forms maybe here and there. And the same other way around, we've had the lighter forms, now we need some of the slightly darker greens happening amongst this lot. Not much, but just a slightly bluey stem coming up there behind that. Through some of these as well. Give the feeling of these plant forms. Rather lovely behind here. Same here, a few little lines. Not a lot, but just a few. A few slightly warmer greens just going on here in the foreground. Just to bring it forward a bit. Where we might need a few more little bits of brown, stronger brown to play against the blues. Coming up into the hair as well, which will push this back. Just give it that bit more. And there we are, then I think we've about done there. Just hit the greens a fraction. That plant comes over there. We do. Okay, this is our final piece in this series of painting figures amongst flowers. This one this time. Again, a last one of Liz. We've done 3 others, a larger painting, but this time I want to show you how to simplify these sorts of shapes, how we can make the different background lights, the effects of light with all these different greens, warms and cools. First, just working up them as block shapes and edges one to another and blending one into another, and then putting on the light flowers and all the bright colours afterwards. We'll just leave some of the basic areas and put in some colour underneath as an undertone, but what I want to do is just show you how simply we can make such a complicated picture by doing the block shapes one into another and get an effect of light, and then of course the lady into that. I'm going to use acrylics first of all, overall, and then finish with the oils at the end. Remembering that we can put oils over acrylics, but we can't put acrylics over oil. So we'll start with the acrylics, fast drying. Another very good way to work outdoors as well, because you can work very quickly, get it all dry, and then put your final details on with the oils. I shouldn't need a lot of tools and equipment. These filberts will do me, and there's 1 or 2 small flats there. And a simple old chip tray for mixing in, plastic, and a basic set of acrylics. Nothing fancy, just all of these colours will do me fine. I like to start off with my mid-tones and work towards my lightest, so I'll be working from these mid-tones like this through to my lightest ones at the end and the darkest ones at the end. Start with my biggest brush. It's the usual rule is to start with the biggest and finish with the smallest. And I want to look at these variety of blues and blue-greens and just make an effect of light, working one colour into another. So our first colours are going to be yellow and blue, and of course with all the varieties of blues that we've got we can well afford to make a lot of different greens with that. Let's just test one out. There's a nice mid-green going in up here. It's going in between these arches. I'm going to stain the canvas at first. Just rubbing the paint in. It's not very thick paint, this acrylic, so it'll give me a nice staining of the canvas just to start off with. Just to get the lovely effect of light. And we're going to work into this paint while it's still wet. Acrylics dry very quickly, so I want to work very quickly as well before this paint has a chance to dry off, just to get the effects of light. Take a blue into that green. And you see how we can start to get the effect of these different little bits of leaf underneath by stippling in, by stroking in one colour into another. I'm going to leave some little bits of white here and there just to remind myself of where the drawing is for some of the objects. Otherwise I'll be lost later. I'll just paint over my drawing and that'd be a bit silly. No point in that. Same here. Just an effect of light and texturing to give the feeling of all this mass leaf behind here first of all. I'll work into this over and over again. And as the colour changes, so I add different blues to get different effects of light. Leave some of these flower shapes behind just so that I know where my drawing is for those. Let's get these lovely effects of the different shadows of the greens going on behind. Put more yellow into that again to make a green again. But a variety of different greens, as you can see. Just scumble all that in because I've got a lot of yellow to be left in there, but give me a background colour. So I'm showing you simple ways to paint complicated scenes. At least that's what I'm trying to do. And by adding different yellows and different blues we can get these effects. So I started off with a lemon yellow, and I'm using three different blues here, a cobalt, an ultramarine and a cerulean. Now I'm just mixing a little bit of yellow ochre, which is much warmer, with one of those blues, with the cerulean in fact, to give me a much warmer shadow, bluey green shadow. I don't need much water with the paint because the paint's fairly thin anyway. Now for those of you who know the classical terms, you'll know of chiaroscuro, which is light and dark, which Rembrandt used a lot. Well, we're going to be using a little bit of it in here, where we have the very light edges against the dark edges and the sunlight reflecting. Just giving an impression of shapes and objects and a feeling of things going on behind. We're not going to paint exactly at this stage, we're just putting in this effect of light. And you start to see the difference between these warm and cool greens, and how we get that effect of light. Atmosphere, mood and movement. Just building this up gradually. Putting one colour into another and over another to give this illusion of detail. And the cools into the warms, and the warms into the cools, and the roughs next to the smooths, and the lights next to the darks. All these bits of armoury we've got, all of these techniques we've got to control to get the effects we want. Little brush strokes to give the feelings of textural leaves and background. Dabbing it on, drawing it in. Building it up layer over layer, because these acrylics are cheaper acrylics, so they're fairly transparent, which means I can build up one layer over another. All the bright colours, I keep saying it, but all the bright colours are going on later. I haven't got to worry yet. This is just some underpainting, an effect of light. It's building up from the mid-tones, gradually getting darker and darker. And some lovely colours happening in here. I'll just find this light. You just begin to see the lovely effects of texture we can get just with blobs of paint and building this up. Now we're working from the mid-tones into the darks and out towards the lights gradually. Starting to put in some of these lighter yellows here, the highlights of the sunlight catching the leaf behind. Not painting any detail, just giving an illusion of it. These are still fairly cool greens that I'm putting on at the moment. You see the depth that just is starting to come now into this painting, even before we paint any detail of the figure. As we've gone darker, do the same with some of these deeper, richer colours that are amongst the flowers here. Just start to show those lovely deep purples that are glowing amongst these sweet williams. So we've done our greens and blues, and now we're starting to work some of the slightly warmer. Now while I have colours on my brush that can do with going into here, let's start to paint in some of the underpainting of the figure and the dress. This warm grey will do for the moment, just to get some of the patterning into here. I'm not going to start painting lots of detail on. All I want at the moment is to get rid of this white canvas and find the tones to get this effect of light. A moment in the time, and then we will work in the details. Let's get some sort of flesh tone onto there just to get rid of that white. Don't have to be too careful at this stage, just blocking in to get rid of the white canvas really. To tidy this drawing up a bit later, it's important. But for the moment, just get the flesh tones into here. So you can see how we can build up these undertones. The underpainting to it. think I've done enough with the basic underpainting now, so we leave the acrylics at this stage to go onto it with oils later. I could have carried on working it up with acrylics, but I think I'd like to go onto the stronger colours of the oils. Well, I've now got the oil paint set out because we're going to move on to the overpainting. Now we've done the underpainting in acrylic, and now we're going to do the overpainting, the final work with these oils. And here's the palette that I normally use, and I'll show you more clearly now the palette on screen, so you can see the amount of paints that I keep, and I can paint almost everything with. Quite often when we come back to a painting, having been away for a while, we can see things that are wrong, and immediately I can see a problem here with the drawing of the face. So I want to set that up straight away. Take a small brush and just get my oils going. The nose needs lengthening out a little bit, and it wants to be a little bit higher and more coming out just a fraction as well. So I'm going to take a little bit of yellow ochre and white for the moment, and tiniest touch of rose, just to find once again where this should be here, and I think we should be out there somewhere actually. That head, the hair should be a little bit higher here, let's get that right, perhaps out there, with the light shining on it, coming down and round into there. Little tiny touch of taps onto my brush just to get it fluid again. So we're finding that light area there, colour coming out with the oils. You see how easily the oil goes over the acrylics, and you can thin it down and almost use it like a glaze as well if you want to. I'm using this paint not fat on lean at the moment because the acrylics are already dry, but fairly thinly just to get started. That's up to there somewhere, then our forehead comes down here. The eye there, and then the nose actually has come out a little bit further up, probably a little bit more of an angle, probably more there I think, and inwards just slightly there. It's very important, these little bits of drawing a profile like this is absolutely vital, and then the lightness coming down on her chin, and that has changed that bit of drawing quite dramatically. You see the changes I'm making quite dramatically with this colour already. Really pushing the colours now. That red is, well, I've got it on my brush, is also up here. It's a purple actually. Down into there. Now I need to mix that cooler flesh tone, which is very similar to the one that was on with the acrylic. Slightly more blue into it. There we go, that's found her back again, that's brought her back again a bit. Push the colour a bit more now again. Just coming out from her nose here, a little bit darker there with the blue, which will help the reds to show out even more. And then we'll find her mouth, which has both the purple and the blue in it. And we've got the warmth then, with the nose coming down. Still a fraction lower than I thought, maybe. Just a bit more here. Just working on the head at the moment and feeling my way around these ladders of sunlight, which are a bit harder than I thought they were at first. You can see beautifully how much fun the effects are to put in. Play one colour against another. Some lovely pure yellows and golds going on out here in a minute because of these flowers as well, which will help because the whole thing will then link and make more sense. You can see now how even these yellows are beginning to play against the colours I've already got. Take some cobalt blue now, get back into the head with some of that. Work out just where things come. Now going back to the head again, I'm going to take a bit of my darkest blue, that's my Prussian, and a little touch of burnt sienna into that to make it warmer. Get quite a nice dark that way that I want to use. And there. Feeling of these curls in her hair coming round. How what you thought was dark before suddenly becomes or appears lighter when I actually do put a darker one colour in, like this now. Makes that makes the other tone seem quite a lot lighter, doesn't it? Not quite right there in the drawing is what I think, but I'll look at that in a moment. this stage into the painting, you can see I'm adding lemon yellow and some emerald, and it's giving me these beautiful sunlit bright greens, which I can put on at the very end here to give the highlights of the sunlight sparkling across the leaves and flowers. And what a wonderful thing to do. You know, it's the highlight of the painting for me as well, because it's so pleasurable putting in these very effective pieces of light and making the painting come to life as it is now. Because this gives it the three-dimensional quality, doesn't it, that we've been looking for. It gives her the light that she needs. And we're able to use more pure colour, whereas we've been using dulled down colour slightly until now. We're really getting the light going now. So, pure colour. And we could go even lighter yet if we wanted to, but this is enough, just gradually building it up at the moment, just working these colours up. All these lovely bits of sunlight going on behind the scenes. Sparkling through. Now take the same colour, the emerald and the lemon yellow, and this time add a little white to really go even lighter and a stage further. See up here, got a tremendous light going on around her face. And the stronger we make those colours, then the more pure and stronger we can make other colours around them, such as the pinks and the blues. Let's just take the cerulean for the minute. A little bit of those blues going up into here. We've got the flowers going on behind here that have quite strong pinks in them. You can really make the colours sing and vibrate now. We're getting into the full orchestra of the tune. We've built up all the dull background colours, and now we can really work into these lovely foreground ones. Well, that brings us to the end of this present series of painting figures within flowers. In this last one I've shown you the whole process right the way through, but haven't gone into all of the colours because I've done that in the previous paintings. I do hope that you've enjoyed seeing this loose and lively impressionist way of working, this way of painting like a jigsaw, of building up the background colours and light and atmosphere, and then gradually over the top working the brighter colours up more and more, working from the mid-tones and then outwards into the darks and the lights. This method allows you to work on a complicated subject matter but actually achieve it quite simplistically, just by working up one colour next to another, by keeping all the colours going at once, and gradually, like a jigsaw, they'll all fit together as you see here. You are the one in charge. If you start loose, you can finish tight. You can finish as tightly as you want, as detailed as you want. You don't have to finish impressionistically like this. You can finish quite photographically if you wish to. Start with watercolour, and in this case I'm going to put a light pink on first and cover her entire face in that. And I can leave it at that because I want things to blend in. I'm going to work some colours over the top, all the way down. Try to keep out of your way as much as I can. You're right there, just yeah. Try to what I'm doing otherwise. So, not, fairly crudely, just blocking in at the minute, just to get some colours working. And you can work an entire painting up in this way. I've just done a portrait of a young child amongst the flowers. Again, it's on the YouTube if you want to see it. Going to go to a cool now, slightly more bluer tone. Should do the job. And I can bring some highlights back with the pastel pencil later. It's just to show how we can use these mediums together. People get so stuck with the idea that you've got to paint from left to right only with a wash, that you've got to do this, that and the other. If it works, do it. There's no hard and fast rules. There are definitely things that don't work. Yes, we know that. But there are so many things you can explore with that you haven't done yet that will also work. A bit of water, and we'll just blend that. So I've got some flesh tone to start with. And I'll darken that down later on a bit more. Right, now let's have some fun. Let that dry off. And, I'm really going to go nuts now. It's worse than a funeral. All the way down. As I'm working on the vertical, it's not going to be quite so, you're going to have stuff trickling everywhere, but you haven't got to worry about it. And isn't it nice when you can paint where you haven't got to worry? But when I was painting that big figure one for you last time, it was showing you how we could work it up like a jigsaw, how if we put the right colours in the right places. Now, this here, look. I put a bit of pastel, how we can blend that just like the watercolour. I could take it off from there, I can move it to somewhere else. You can use it just like watercolour. People don't realise we can do that. Now, the more expensive the pastel, usually the softer it is. So the unisons are fairly expensive, they're about 80 pence a piece. Then you get pastels called the inscribes, and the cheaper ones. You see that black isn't moving, look, that's a Chinagraph pencil. Yeah, and it will take colour over it. So what I'm doing is a demonstration. I'm showing you how all of this, all the different mediums can be used And you can then think, oh, I could use that for doing a jungle scene, or I could use that for whatever. That's up to you. All I'm here is to give you new ideas, how to excite you a bit with me. That's what we're doing. We've got to choose today also what you'd like to have. We've been invited back in spring again, so if you guys want to see me back in spring, you can choose again what you want. I did have a thought of using just pastel and water, but I'm totally open to suggestion. So whilst we're here today, you can choose what you'd like to come back to if you want to come back and see me again. And I'll do something especially for you in spring. Now, I could mix these colours and paint them on like watercolour. I'm going to cheat a little bit, and I'm going to go straight in with the neat colour. And if I want it lighter, you don't use white because they are transparent. You'll also notice these have, they're rather nice, these bottles of ink. They have, it's got nothing in it, eardroppers in them. So you can paint with a brush with them, or you can actually literally squeeze up and draw around with those if you want to be more abstract. A bit more that colour first. There we go. And they are gorgeous colours, these, as you'll see as we go on here. So let's get up into here very, very quickly. And I say, with this wind blowing in here, it's going to dry pretty quickly, so I'm going to have to keep spraying it with the sprayer occasionally. So some of these edges are going to dry already. Just dabbing it in, just finding. So if I want a lighter colour, I've got to use it more thinly, just like you would with watercolour. So I'm not going to be mixing in white. They are semi-transparent, they're not completely. And as to how wet it is as to how far it will spread. You can still see the drawing through it, you see. If we want. Different blue into it. And I can paint a watercolour as loosely as this in the same way, I suppose. And at a distance, don't go too close in, just a fine spray, and that's all it needs. You can see, look, trickling now even at that. Don't overdo it, just keep it down. But I'm not worried about the trickles, and you'll see why, because I can bring it all back again. Now some of the stronger blues. They have their own names. This is a Rowley blue. I'd probably call it more ultramarine myself. But blobbing it in. You say, when somebody first sees you doing this, if they don't know about painting, oh God, what's he doing? Anybody, child could do that. But if you're going to do it with watercolour, which you can paint pastels over watercolour in this same way, then you'll have to use a completely different technique than you've used before, if you've used watercolour properly, as in a luminous colour, as in a transparent, because you'll be used to using it too thinly. If you want this to work with pastels, you've got to paint it a lot more thickly than you've ever done before. So by all means experiment with your watercolour and pastels. Difficult to put the harder pastels over the top of the softer ones at times as well. The cheaper ones sometimes muddy the surface or even tear the paper slightly, so you've got to be careful about. I keep the cheaper ones, which I haven't got in here today. I'm just going to show you this. It's a brand new box I bought, and I haven't put the new cheaper ones in. But I keep the cheaper ones for the very bright colours for flowers sometimes, which I don't fortunately need today, but the garish pinks and sweetie colours, the really bright one you can't get in the unisons. I mean, there's my standard unison set. Idea. But if you want those really garish bright colours, they don't do them. So you have to get the cheaper ones for that. on that. Should have brought some more colours really. I'm trying to make do. Purple. This purple is a gorgeous one. Right, where is she? Just down here. Right. You can see it drying. I'm going to have to go back and spray it all and see. Not easy. Got a lot of here around yet. Again, don't worry too much about things like that. So we're going to change later anyway. But you see the sort of lovely colours and effects. Now, when I have students coming to me and they want to loosen up, want to become loose women or whatever, in their painting, then this is a very good way to start somebody off. And very often we found that because they haven't felt inhibited, they've been able to loosen up with this way of painting, and before we've even used the pastel, we said, hey, whoa, just have a stop, just have a look. Oh God, look what I've turned out, this lovely abstract painting. And they haven't wanted to go any further. They're quite happy with the lovely abstract work that they've actually turned out. And haven't wanted to use the pastels at all. So, you know, it's worth thinking about. Very, very loosely and abstractly at first.
What size brush are you using? 12?
Here I'm using a half-inch oval mop, which is like Ron Ransom. I find I can do an entire painting with that and a rigger if I want, because you can turn it sideways into a blade and use a thinner marks and everything. That's very right. I use that more than I do the Hakes. A very, very handy brush. A bit thinner now, just to get some of the lighter areas, light reflecting through. And we need to go to my gardens came out quite well this year. This is all my own art garden, and as I said to you before, I open these gardens up to you throughout the entire summer, so if anybody wants to come and paint there, it's free. You can see the gallery, yes, you can get help, yes, if you want, but you just come along and bring your picnics and just enjoy it. So you take my details, and then next summer, if you want to come and paint there, or have a workshop there, or whatever you want to do. They are slightly opaque, so once it's dry, you can start to paint over them like that. As to how wet the paper is, as to what sort of a blob you're going to get when it's like that. Just putting the right sort of colours in the right places, and the whole thing will actually come together. Now, look at some of this background. I'm really going to be quite crude with it at first. I'm going to have to do most of this in pastel anyway, so. not to worry, because I can go back in with bright colours and I can put highlights and darks in as I go along. Again, just to show you techniques today. A bit of the white paper as soon as you can. Just approximating where leaves and things are, and gradually bring them out later. And if I want a leaf, I can just go dark around it like that and know approximately where it is there. Dry. Let it flood. Let the colours blend together. All I want is an effect of light and vibrance at the moment. Details going to be required. Still trying out too fast. There's an art group in Grimsby that the lady telephoned me and said, could I come and do a demo for their AGM? Everybody knows who they are.
North Links Art Society.
Is it? I asked for an email back to confirm and it didn't arrive, and I don't have any details otherwise to come to you.
Right.
So if you take my sheet of paper from there, if you'd let me have a confirmation, then I can get back to you and everything. I put it in the calendar, there's no trouble, I can do it. And I've got some ideas. Possibly I'm going to link it with a little, so I try to link things together. I was thinking of doing a wee demo of painting figures in Hull, so a little bit of filming I did in Hull. And he wanted street scenes, and there's a rather nice one of all these coloured lights and streamers and things in a tree with figures walking. They thought I might do that. So I know you wanted a watercolour similar to the one I did here before. Nice little jungle. We get the effect of light coming up, you know, these colours we can use. Seems mad at first. I'm going to pull that back again, but you'd be surprised at how it will. Now you can see how I can use this brush in quite a versatile way to make thinner lines as well. Work around leaves and start to get the feeling and textures. And, delphiniums and hollyhocks and lilies right here. Right. I don't like, I try to push myself as well. I don't like to come and do something that's always just plain, easy and simple. As I say, I don't practice this sort of thing beforehand. I've done obviously many in this sort of style and way, but I like to explore and experiment as well. And what I'm doing here now is quite new to me. Using the China Graph pencil there as well as this is then using the watercolours. And it's all taking a risk in the way I'm working. And I'm trying to work it out as I go along. Which is the same as you will be. I'm putting on an undercoat, if you like, here, which I'm going to let the pastels go across, shine through. Put the details on afterwards. With that watercolour too, so you can use the inks just like watercolours. Oops. Just push a bit too much there, not to worry. Luscious colours we can get. It rivers down my canvas paper. Almost out of control here. Fun. We've got an old gentleman just joined me for lessons. Again, he's been painting very tightly in watercolour, and he felt what he was doing was fairly loose actually. Because when I pulled him up over it, he just said, well, looking at your work, you've shown me it's fairly tight. I went, oh no, this is loose. When he saw what we were doing with this later, he changed his mind a bit. And he's now actually doing a sunrise over Saltfleet Bay, one of the shots I took in the high tides recently, which is beautifully loose. And we put these acrylics on wet into wet, with all the sun blending and spreading out flat on the table, so it didn't trickle all over the place. And he's piling on the pastel now, and it looks absolutely gorgeous. And very, very contemporary, and almost, in fact, pretty abstract as well. Now you can see why the inks, aren't they absolutely gorgeous? And it's up to you how you use them, but the strength and vibrance you can get. When you start putting the unison pastels on, you'll also see some fun things. Okay, let's let that dry, because I can now work onto that with the plaster. I don't need to do much more underpainting. The next mistake you will make, in my opinion, be very careful about saying about mistakes and what's wrong and right, because I'm, as a teacher, only here to guide and help you enhance who you are. But in my opinion, the next mistake that people make with this is to cover it over. With all that lovely colour there, you start whacking in with a pastel and it's lost. The idea is for this to glow through and use as little pastel as possible. The more abstract this is, and the more colour there is to leave those colours as much as possible. I've lost a lot because it's all trickling down, but I'm still going to let those colours show through. What I'm going to do is try and pick out those colours and pull it together as figuratively as I like. When I do assessments of Art Society's work, I don't do a crit. I don't agree with that word, criticism. It's a terrible thing. I do a positive assessment and I go in and say, all of the good things I can see, which there always will be, whatever level, and having found all of those good things, I will say, in my opinion, because somebody else would have a totally different one, you could improve it by this. Take it or leave it. That's just my opinion. I might be wrong, but you can improve it by doing so. So my opinion here on this would be that the danger will be to go into here and keep working pastel and totally use it. It might still work, I'm not saying it wouldn't, but the idea is to let the colours flow through. Right. Now, we were talking about the vibrance, and this is where the fun comes in how we could really lay these colours on. So I bought the wrong set really. I bought a brand new set and forgot my cheapy ones amongst them. But if I want to come back into this, start putting in these flowers, you see, you can really now make things sing. You can come back and start putting in the details, picking things out like these. You can work light over dark, dark over light. There's no... And I'm still working very loosely. I'm not going to tighten up yet. And the paper takes it beautifully. You can see it's going on. You haven't got to have these fancy papers. In fact, I think some of the pastel papers are a nuisance because the last thing you want is this orange peel effect, unless you've got actually painting orange peel or something. That gets in the way. And I mean, even the Ombrus pads, I think they're doing them right now, but they did have the paper upside down in them. Students were saying, why is that an horrible effect? I can't, because you've got the paper upside down. It's the smooth side you want, not the orange peel side. It's still got the bite to it. It is not the canvassy texture that gives the bite. It is the actual paper surface like that that's giving you the bite.
Can I ask you,
Yes.
how is the paper standing up? If
What
I was
does-
doing that myself, what happened to paper? Is it squashy? Is it damp? Is it?
This now
Yeah.
is just about dried out. It's got a slight dampness to
Right.
it, sort of slight cockling.
Right.
It's okay, no?
Yeah.
Got a slight cockling, but no, it's now it's fine, and it would be if it was ordinary pastel paper the same.
Yeah.
So we start to build these.
Yeah.
There's the hand here. Yeah, keep asking the questions. I don't mind talking whilst I'm working, as long as I just keep going now. But this is why I did this, because I wanted to find a way of painting very vibrantly but loosely like this, and not have to use the oils or acrylics. But I deliberately want the patterns on the dress duller, so I'm going to deliberately then rub it with my finger to bring these patterns down. Let's have a look. Next. So I'm going to have to make do with these colours today. I'd like to be a bit brighter for you, but this will do, I think, just to give you the techniques. Just indicate shapes and parts, not go into too much detail. I'm working at a funny angle here, so I'm doing around there, so I'm doing. So you guys can see something. Just indicate them and gradually build up bit by bit all over. Try and keep the whole painting going at once if you can. If we work like that, the colours should be correct one to another. If we just finish one particular part, you can find that it's wrong when you go to paint the resting. So try and keep the whole painting going if you can.
What are you using there? Is it a dark blue or a purple?
This is a very, very deep blue, yeah. You can come and have a look at these colours later and enjoy seeing what I've got in there. If you want to ever email me, you've got my email address there. There's several reasons for that. I keep colour charts of things like this that I can send to you, so you can see the colours that I get with the numbers on them and everything. Do it free for you. If you ever want some advice on your work and you can't get to me and just say, well, look, I've done this painting, I've got a photograph here, can you just tell me what you think? Is there anything I can do to improve it or whatever? And I'm quite happy to do that. I come to my darkest and my lights at the end. I tend to work out from my mid-tones in all my outputs. So the horizon is normally a good place to start on the landscape, because it's a mid-tone, and then just work outwards and finish with my lights and my darks. Your white is your last resort, isn't it? It's the lightest light you can go. So I don't normally need to go there. I can use purer, stronger colours. And it's very seldom that I actually will use a pure white, but I do, and it will happen. Having said that, just for fun, as you've asked it, use a bit of white. But look how dead it looks compared to the other colours, but I'm going to use it towards the end. But that will bring out the warmth of these colours. So if I did put a little bit of that light in there, as it's coming towards the end of the painting, and I know I can get away with it, it will bring out the other colours. So it's this important thing about how one colour will affect another. Very important. Very, very light cream again. Chest. And then I'm just going to go back into that and do a little bit more warmth. Back into her face here, I think, somewhere. because I've now got those tones, I can afford to. Try and get that vibrancy of light that I was after. So if I want that warmer, I'll use a cool now to deliberately make that area of the face slightly warmer. We've got reflected light going on there, and I need to take that down just a bit on that edge. This is where the pastel pencils, when I'm doing such fine work as this, I may well turn back to the pastel pencils at the stage like this. And I must say to you, I mean, some of you again will know this, but mounting makes such a difference in framing. You know, I judged an exhibition at Driffield once, and I said to them at the end, when I was actually doing the talk about the work, because what I tend to do is make a comments list about every single piece of work, rather than just go round first, second, third, that's it, the rest of you are trash. I think, you know, we all are sensitive about our work. You've all spent time, you've all entered it. And even the kiddies ones, I judge Manly little, the church one there, and I've just done one for Spirit of the Marsh. I made a comment, a positive one, about every single child. And then they appreciated that because those children felt valued. Somebody said something about their work. That's like the positive assessment thing. And one of the points I made was, let me come back and bring a picture framer with me, a friend of mine, and some mounts, and look at your work again, because you've got a lovely exhibition of work, but it's destroyed by bad mounting, cheap frames, and you know, you can't put 1-inch photo frames onto an oil. You need 3 or 4 inch. You can't put bad mounts that don't bring the colours out. And they realised, and we had a little session, and the difference it made just totally transformed some of the paintings. We were, you know, their own painting, put the mount next to it, and what? It's totally different. It is. You see, for me, I mean, I'm almost tempted to stop where I am because I quite like the looseness of that. But you go as far as you want.
You ought to bring them out with you so that we could see it mounted.
Yeah, I've done that before. I have actually, for the last couple of that watercolour, I had a mount there. This one,
I was hoping you were going to bring that one completed along so we could see it today.
which one was that?
The watercolour of the cafe scene.
She brought it and took it away. One of the ladies afterwards, didn't you know?
No.
Yeah, one of you guys, very kindly, yes, wanted it and paid me on the spot, and I didn't get a chance to. She would like to visit once, so. And this is the fun, I think, when you've built up your mid-tones and you come to the very end of the painting and you can make it sparkle, you can make it come alive with these.
Would you fix that?
No,
No.
as I was saying, if I fix it, I'm going to take the tones down, I'd lose all those nice brights. And why? I mean, you know, I could put a bit of paper there, nothing. You know, unless you're actually going to touch it and smudge it, which you don't want to do anyway, even if you're fixing it. It's fine as it is. Now, the signature is also important. I think some of you forget about the signature. When I have my students earlier on signing a work, don't forget you've got to leave space for a mount or a frame around it. And it is a part of the composition. So I put a warmer colour there to draw the eye forward on that deliberately. I could have put a cool one in and just let it blend. It could have been this side. But it does make a difference to the painting. And doing a crap signature can also make it look very amateur as well. So you want to practice getting a nice flowing... You'll spend all that time on a painting and then you put something on that looks like a 2-year-old's done it, you know. It's nice to have a bit more flow and, you know, which brush to use for that, or if you're using acrylics or oils to get the right thickness for your rigger or whatever. Well, that'll do then today. Just we're at the time now. It gives you an idea. So next time round then I'll do a bigger one if you like. And I'll try and have a mount ready for it, and we'll do autumn landscape or landscape river, and we'll use water and pastel to build the whole thing just with these same pastels and water, completely up from washing to the final coats, yeah? Want to come back for that? See you again.
Yes.
Very good. Any more questions for me? things go on. That's another thing with painting like this, you're having to whip the colours in when you can quickly because the light changes. Right, the grass behind is a fairly warm green, so I'm going to go for a yellow ochre and mix a little bit of cerulean with that, a little bit of white. White is a body colour, so it's a good colour to cover a board like this because it's opaque. I want to go a little bit yellower than that as well, so let's get some yellows. Are you setting up tent behind me? Or? That's better. And a bit more yellow. Gradually find these colours. So very, very quickly slap it on. The thing is, it's very nice to have a coloured ground on as well, but to make a darker ground, Constable worked with an umber ground, and he used to let that ground actually show through the painting. His branches might be just branches left behind of the brown showing. The Impressionists would work very often into liquid white. I quite like a very, very dark ground to work into. But white canvases are a pain in the because they get in the way. I like to be able to get rid of my white as soon as possible. Here I'm just going to work a ground on, and because one of the nice things about hardboard is it is fairly absorbent, and you see it's soaking in that paint very quickly, so I can get a couple of layers on, and it's not drying completely, but it's becoming paste hard, which makes it quite nice to lay other colours over, so now I can come back onto that. Right, that's established my mid-tone there. We can start to work in these various greens. I'm leaving this to poppy areas, and I know where that blue's coming. It's about there, and I know I'm going to work over there in a moment, so I can afford to leave odd little bits, but I'm going to work in between on the rest. So a much warmer green. Come back to that one I made earlier on with the... and start to make these comparative greens. And remember how many blues there are amongst greens. The light's reflecting off these shiny leaves, and the sky is reflecting in quite a lot of these. So we get a lot of turquoises amongst these warm and cool. Just an illusion of it, and it's fairly cool back there. Even though you've got to compare one thing to another, I have to compare that to here, because if I look just at that, I might think the colours are the same as here. But I know logically they have to be cooler back there. So logically I have to go back into here making cooler greens. I don't want to make it too dark back there because I've got a lot of darks going on in the foreground here, but I'm going to go a little bit darker yet. So it's just blobs of paint, but they'll gradually come together. And I'm painting like a jigsaw. I'm putting one colour relevant one to another, gradually in the right places and in the right shapes. Just out of focus and back there in the background. I put in some of these flowers later just for fun. Coming against the darks up here. So it's the jigsaw gradually coming together. It's one colour against another, one shape against another. If you've got any questions you want to ask while I'm doing this about oil painting or the techniques or the colours or the terps or using linseed oil or anything like that, now is your chance. Yep, straight from the tube, no messing about. Remember that you can freeze oil paints as well, so if I've got that many out, I can put cling film over the top, shove it in the freezer for a week or two and still bring it out again and just thaw out again. Yep. There are a lot of tricks I can teach you, but you need to ask me a bit like that, and then it'll pick me up, because I don't know what I've told you. I have so many classes I forget what I tell people, sorry.
Sometimes you can freeze acrylics.
You don't need to, because you use a wet palette. Stay wet palette. You're best off. So now,
Frost and acrylics. I'm very careful not to store my acrylics in the porch in case the frost gets them in the winter time.
right, yeah. And also tilt them in the car when you're travelling and then stay wet palette, because the whole lot just goes to the one corner.
You're not bothered about the stalks.
I haven't got there yet. We have all sorts. We have blackbirds, and we have yeah, well, I'll be doing. I'm tightening up to details at the end. You see, that's why I've actually picked up that brush. I've got to. Oh damn! I've actually got to come in with and start doing more detail as I'm going on. I'm not going to hold you up much longer, but I just want to give you an idea of just what can be done working loosely like this. So now I'm coming down to my smaller brush, yes, and I can just start to paint people with blue jeans in behind.
So you said they're straight from tubes. So why
Yep.
do you, or when would you use terps or linseed?
Cleaning my brush, most of these, or getting the right consistency. when I've run out of turps before now up in Scotland, luckily I had a petrol car, I've even taken petrol out of the car, but diesel doesn't work as well, I don't think, it'd be a bit slimy. If you wanted to have a much richer effect on here, then you could add some linseed oil to this while you're painting, actually in your turps. Because all it is really is the pigment with linseed oil and an additive to make them dry a bit quicker depending on the make of the paint. So the more linseed oil you put in, the more gloss it's going to have already. But it tends to get very gungy, and this lot in here ends up like a sort of mucky syrup after a while, so I don't bother much. I do mine varnished at the end and always use a retouching varnish. Why? I'm a spray retouching or retouching because retouching varnish is one of the best varnishes you can get. You can paint over retouching varnish. I could varnish this and then put more oils over the top. And if in the future when you're actually famous, of course, then you will find that the retouching varnish can be lifted more easily just with turps. So, if you've got a mistake, you can lift it yourself, or you can start to find these poppy heads now. Now, talking about artistic license in the background there, always the ones in the back you notice are the ones the ones at the front are the quietest and paying attention. The ones at the back are the ones that be wittering. Daisies. Daisies. We can't be selling a painting like this. This is a little pot boiler, this one. So we can't be selling a painting like this without some daisies. So those ones on the left, I've got one coming in here. And remember with your daisies that you've got the cool petals as well as the warm ones. So we've got the light blue and slightly mauve ones. But you were talking about getting the right consistency in paint. I'm now mixing, especially for a fine line, a cream. If I wanted to slap it on like that, then I'm going to take it straight from the palette. If I want to get a finer line, then I've got to mix enough turps to get a cream to paint a finer line.
So you put your brush in there to get it.
So I use a little bit of turps and then mix either on the palette. You see all of these have got turps in them, and they can be thinner. You can almost glaze like watercolour, or you can make them thicker and just lay them over the top. Now I've got a medium consistency here, which again wants to be used before the turps dries out too much. And I want to start getting in some daisies down here. So I'm just going to flick those in with the brush. And the newer the brush is the better, because you get a nice point. These moth-eaten old things are mine. I've had a lot of use. So I just want a few daisies coming in the background just for fun, just to lighten things up a bit. So I'm putting them in where I feel intuitively.
It's a cardboard.
Nope. Guess. Perspex. Yeah, it's light. That's if you just want to pass those around people to see. These are the colours that I'm using here. All I use is an old wooden suitcase, 2 pieces of Perspex, which will take paint stripper, so I can strip those off whenever I want, or use a palette knife. I haven't got them with me here, but there's a difference between, I'll show you later, a palette knife and a painting knife. A palette knife has a straight blade, don't bother buying one. And a painting knife has a blade that comes down and along. Get those, because when you try and paint with a palette knife, your fingers are against the board. And a painting knife has an angle so that it comes in and out like a trowel, and you get those in all various shapes and sizes. Again, I can show you some later, and they'll do everything. So palette knife, waste of time. I'm almost going to leave it there because I want to keep it loose and fresh. But I could carry on as long as I want, couldn't I? Until it's absolutely photographic if I wanted, changing these colours, working up those details on the petals.
It's lovely as it is.
That's it, one doesn't need to do too much. Okay guys, there's the camera. Have fun. If you want some hardboard cutting, you can, by all means I'll do you some. Are you going to have a go then? I'll cut you some board and you just sit there and do the same thing. So, water and pastel. Now, watercolour paper, again texture. I'd normally use £140 hot press smooth, something like this. I'm using £140 knot. If I wanted to do a snow scene, then rough or knot's going to be great, isn't it, for the texture? But it's not going to be so good for this, because it's going to give you a texture that I don't need. But this is just to do a demo. Now you can put the pastel on first and wet it, or you can put the water on first and wet it. It doesn't really matter, but it depends what you've really got sinking into here. I'm just going to do a wet into wet. And again, look how much how this pastel goes into it so beautifully. Again, I'm going to use the same colours as here, and you can paint with it beautifully.
Crikey.
If you, I should have put the word around in case somebody else wanted to watch this really, because it's something you don't often see being done. But now this means that if I have a big chunky pastel and I want to paint something fine, I can do that with a brush. So I can put my darks in and paint fine with a brush afterwards. And I can come into that whenever I want with those colours and paint in between oil painting, pastel painting, watercolour, because I can come back into that over with lights or darks whenever I want. I can let that dry off now and work over that as an ordinary pastel. But look how fast I can cover the paper, you see, that's the point, isn't it? Get in there and enjoy. Let's have a look. It's good, just totally, I mean, when you see me doing acrylic ink like this, it'll be just a total mix of wet into wet, almost kiddie abstract painting. But as I gradually work into that, I'll pull it out. But then I really do work loosely. You can work tighter if you want, but you don't want to be worrying about a painting like that. You don't want to be having to worry. You want to be getting in there and just enjoying. And because actually the paper's given me quite a nice granulated effect, isn't it? Which is quite fun actually. Just approximating at first. Get these colours on and get the white paper covered. Yeah, I was sort of thinking, oh, great fun with it. And I can then work into this as it dries. I can put those daisies on top, and I can work in as a standard pastel now. I can even blend with my finger. It's totally free and beautifully versatile. And I might go away now and let it drop a bit. Yeah, really go for it and just enjoy. But you can see the versatility of using the two ways. There's nothing to say that I can't use water into here if I want to. And I can even take and paint with that. So that's what you're here for. And these are things that I've had to develop as an artist because I've wanted certain effects. So the acrylic inks and pastel I developed because I wanted really strong, bright, vibrant colours with wet into wet that I couldn't get with the oils. And you can put acrylic inks onto canvases as well and let them all blend out brightly and then paint your acrylics or your oils over that. So all of these things can interact. In the same way as I could use gold leafing into that and use China Graph pencil into it and even put acrylics over, you know. Don't be afraid to mix media and just enjoy yourselves. Now it's starting to dry, so I'm getting standard pastel techniques now. So I can blend into the wet, I can blend onto the dry. Back to my blue again. And as it gets drier, so I can put purer colour over the top to get these reflections of the lights. Highlights of colour. The sun's gone again, so I'm a bit stuck there again now. But I can come back with the orange. I can go stronger. You can cut in. The pastels, when they are wet, obviously are darker and they will dry lighter. So you've got to bear that in mind. It's like watercolour, whereas watercolour goes about the shade paler. So don't panic when you see it so dark. What can I do with that? You can work into this later, lighter. I can either blend that or I can come in as ordinary pastel now diffusing the textures. Again, I like to work very loosely, and I can gradually then tighten up into detail.
Okay.
Any questions? All right, have some fun?
Okay.
Yep.
No, it's
Oh, that's
great.
right then.
Fascinating
Yep.
to watch, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I could carry on and do it, but, you know, I don't need to now. It was just to show you the way. As I say, then you can work in as detailed as you want, either with the brush or with the pastels, gradually building these leaves up, giving those effects. Putting those canes in later and working up over the top with the blues across here. Gradually you're stumbling on the paper to get more vibrance, working one colour against another. And how just a few colours like that can make such a difference, yeah? I mean, I could go on and with a few strokes I'll almost have this done. Loose and then tighten. It is a fisherman's, yeah. Now we'll continue with our series of figures in landscapes, and we're going to go back to doing a couple of Rosie with the poppies, and then move on to her sister Liz, which you've got some rather nice shots of her in the evening light in the flower beds. Let's go on to this larger work for the moment, which we're going to do in acrylics. Again, quite simply, we've got a very basic set of acrylics over here. Don't need too much special for this. Just a few colours, mixing palettes and brushes and some water. We'll start with the sky, work our way down here to the horizon. It's always fun to do that, and for that I'll use my largest of my brushes here. I'm going to start with a body colour of white, but it'll give me more opaque quality, and into that I'm going to put a little bit of pink, give me a lovely colour for the background. We're going to start that over here. It always seems very dark when we first start something off like this because we're using a white canvas, that's why. And you know, the white makes the colour seem very dark, seems very dark compared to the white. But once all the colours are on, it then gives us a full range of tones to work to our darkest and lightest in between. And acrylics of course dry very quickly, so I can put glazes and washes over this and change things and do broken colour and all sorts of fun things. And I really do love to enjoy colour, so we're going to play with those colours in here. Just brush it well into the surface. So I'm not just going to mix colours and put them straight on, I'm going to blend them, and I'm also going to work them across one another. I want to go to a much more cerulean blue now. I should want to work a little bit of very light turquoisey green over this as well later. Just feel that colour blending in, feathering it in with those strokes. The blue gets stronger as we come up. Leaving white areas that I'm going to bring the cloud over in a minute. Now to make it a bit more turquoise, I'm going to add a little bit of lemon yellow to that. More greeny colour. Little strokes, broken colour of the yellow blue, slightly green tint into the sky to make it glow more. Use a mixture of that white and light purple pink that we did earlier first of all, and just cover up my white areas of the canvas while the paint is still wet enough to blend. Let's use it to oil on my brush. Some more blue back into that in a moment to get this feeling of a warm hazy day, quite light tones, a little bit of yellow ochre into the clouds, just a little bit more warmth, just a touch more warmth. Very subtly just dropping in these lighter colours into the sky. And a little bit pinker, I'll just add a little bit of pink to that. Those clouds, a bit more warmth. I want to come back with a bit more blue. feel some of this reflected light coming underneath the clouds here. So nothing is as simple as it might seem at first, with all these little bits of colour. Now, let's add a bit more blue back in, just a bit more blue coming back into this sky places. And that yellow as well, coming down. Perhaps this a bit more. We've almost got our sky there, a fraction darker. There we are. That should give us a nice effect for the sky. Now we come down to the horizon, which is a bluey green, so we're going to make our green, this time directly with the deeper blue and yellow. Slightly hazy in the background. Put some light colour on first. Right underneath that there. Now I need some darker colour, I need to go down to scale, sizing brush. I'm going to take a little bit of Prussian blue now and my yellow ochre. Make it much warmer. Series of colours into that. Quick as that. Just indicate, just giving an impression of these things. And that gives us our cooler greens, greeny blues into the background. A feeling of distant tree. Right, next we come on to the next field down. We need a nice yellowy green for those backgrounds. Quite a light yellow green actually, that one. A little bit more white into there just to liven it up a bit. And again, fairly thinly because I'm going to put other colours over the top of it. And that's got to come all the way down to there. And the colour will become slightly warmer afterwards. Just leave a little bit of where those darker bits of grass are coming, just so I know for the future. Now I need to let that dry off a bit so that I can get the other colours on top of it without them blending. Give us a feeling of perspective going on. And maybe a little bit of these yellows just coming into the trees in the background just to catch a little bit of sunlight here and there. Right, now this colour of the green here is fairly warm and I want to use a big brush to paint in most of that just to give myself a good base to work onto later. So I'm going to use yellow ochre and some cobalt blue. Now I want to get rid of all of this white canvas because there's far too much here. Can't see wood for trees. I'm going to use some yellow ochre and cobalt blue to give me a ground to this area because it's just pretty warm. Using fairly simple effects and brush strokes to give a feeling of texture in these greens. I want to work very rapidly because this is how I like to work when I'm outdoors, so I like to do the same, have the same sort of pleasure and spontaneity when I'm working on a canvas in the studio as well. There we go, let's get rid of most of the white. Now we can start to work in some textures into this to give the feeling of the grasses and poppy stems. The bluer colours, little short strokes in the background amongst this lot. To give the feeling of lots and lots of little bits of grasses. Only spiky fluffy ends to them. We can make something look quite complicated with fairly simple brush strokes. Just by painting the wet into the wet and getting these textures moving around. And later we'll come over with even more detail, but just for the moment we'll give the effect of the detail. little flicks of the brush, the tip of the brush only, just the leading edge. We don't have to keep changing brushes to smaller brushes. Cool against warm, light against dark, rough against smooth will help to give us an illusion of depth and space and texture. There we go. I'm going to go a bit darker still. I'm going to add a tiny bit of black into it now, a little bit of purple. Start to get some of these slightly deeper tones, which will make that colour I've just done seem cooler, bluer. It's important that again we show cool against warm, as well as the rough against the smooth and the light against the dark. We want something to look bluer, we don't have to always paint more blue into it. We have to make it look bluer by putting a warm next to it, and the same other way around. If you want something warm, but then put something cool next to it. We'll be coming up with lighter colours afterwards, later with this. So we let that dry off a bit. That's our base. Now let's look at the figure. With a fairly small brush again. I do like these filberts because they're rounded at the end, and it gives me a lot more, I feel, control with shapes. So the hat. What do you want to do with the hat? Very light cream, I think, at first. So white and a little touch of lemon yellow into that. Very, very light. I think we'll go even more pink after that, but we'll just start with that. There we go. Let the sunlight come across the hat like that. I'm going to put a bit more pink in the foreground shortly on that hat, but just for the moment let's just put that in. That very light cream. Get that established. Get the shape right. And then we'll come back with the pink. Do that in a moment. A bit of light going back there. Right. While I'm at it, I need to get the colour right around the hat, the drawing of it. There's a warmer band of slightly more purpley blue happening into here. A tad more blue in there. Just comes round in a texture to that same colour is happening down here, inside. But it's a bit warmer there in a moment. And the band of the hat here, it's a lot more yellow ochre. A little touch of warmth, I think, under her hair here. Right up into the hat there. Make it a bit lighter in a moment. Darken down in a moment on that. It wants to be quite a light orange just there. Just lovely warms. It's a little bit warmer just on this edge. A bit more sunshine going on than I've got. Now I need to come down to her face because, well, we've got that orange on the brush. There's that happening in the face here. Take a bit of work. And then a lot of this is suddenly cooler. Very similar colour to we had in the sky earlier. light reflecting down the side of the face here, down the nose, bit of the mouth, round cheeks, and into the lower mouth and chin just a bit. Very light pink area of light shining under her hair here, down reflecting over her shoulder there, even to the point of being maybe a little bit cream. And that light colour goes towards very light blue in places too, so we'll take it back and add a little bit of blue to it, just to come around the top here and start to get the pattern of the light colours of the dress, just indicating these patterns at the moment, and I'll pick them up in more detail towards the end. Under her hand here a little bit. You can see where we can gradually build up these colours, and some of that little bits of dark may just be texturing a little bit into the hat. Now, while I've got that dark on my brush, let's just look at her hair under here. And establish some of those darks. You see how quickly we can establish something that looks a bit like a face. Let's do the same with her eyes. Just indicating. There we go. Those greens come to the shadows as well of her face. So quickly we can build a figure. We'll cut into that, back into that in a moment. Let's just get the approximate form. And much lighter. Get the feeling of that hand coming round. Just a couple of brush strokes, keep it simple. Just here. Now let's come down to the dress. Take that like a little bit of Prussian. Work our way down there. It's slightly lighter at the top edge than down the bottom edge. There we go. Established. So the darks are there. Just the underpainting. Back and find these colours gradually, build them up. It's time to get rid of the rest of the whites and establish some of the poppies colours. Let's get these reds on and just get rid of very loosely, and then we'll gradually work up into it with this painting. You can see how quickly we can establish the underpainting, gradually finding colours we want and how. Careful, I'm twisting my brush as I go along because I don't want all of this to be the same poppy shape. There are masses of them here, so let's really enjoy plonking them on. Let's almost get rid of all the white, so I can start to see where my colours need to really go. Bits of browns and reds going on. This acrylic is sinking into this darker ground, so I've got to come back in and put second coats over, and I'll make some even lighter coats as well as it goes on. There's some gorgeous colours going on amongst it, so let's now start to look at some of those and really enjoy playing with these beautiful cool and warm reds. It's the magenta I'm using now, which is a cooler red. Nice big blocks of colour, single brush strokes. Find it, look at the colours compared one to another and get them right, put them in the right shapes in the right places, and your painting just appears. Don't have to worry about it. It will just happen like a jigsaw. Come back in with some oranges later with this as well. And we'll let that dry for a while because I want to come back on with cleaner colours, so I'm going to go away for a while and come back to this painting. Well, now it's time to go back and we'll look a bit more at the figure and portrait. And I'm going to use my smaller brush. I'm going to need that for the finer details here and for some of these bits of grasses and so on as we go on. And with that comes a little bit of gold at the back of her head. It's a matter amazing how these little things can make such a difference. This reflected light can just liven everything up a bit. To work around her face a bit more, look at these light reflections coming down and into the side of her face. A little bit there. And the mouth needs to be a little bit warmer. So we'll just take a touch of the purple and the blue just to warm her mouth a little. Look at these colours that are going on in and around the face and the shading here. Subtly around the neck as well. And the fact that there are cools going on in there. And if we want those cools to really work, we've got to play even more of the blues or the cools nearby to make them appear cooler. So if I put some blue in here now, it will help to make the other cools cooler. It's all a play of one colour against another, isn't it? We need some more warms in there too, I think. So I'll take just a little brown now and start to put a little bit of brown showing in the hair. Which again will bring the warmth out a bit. And against those we'll play the cools too. So we'll go back in with our very deep blues and look at where the cools might be going on. There are some glorious colours reflecting all around in the dress and everywhere. And they're coming down and right into the various colours of the dress. Now we just have to put a few highlights in, and hopefully we can start to make this start to look like a figure in sunlight. The thing is, if we put that colour in, we then find that it might affect the others, and we've got to then use it down in other places too. Don't want to fiddle too much, that's the trouble. You can easily get too involved with something, trying to fiddle with things, and then it goes peculiar. Now, a lot of these things work by not just what's here, but what's going on behind as well. So if I now make a much lighter green, you'll see what I mean. Earth I'm talking about. Take some white and some yellow, a little bit of the light blue, just start to try and find some of these lighter greens that are going on behind. You'll see how it brings her out. I'm going to bring a lot more yellow into this in a minute as well. At the moment I just want to work up some of these lighter greens to give the sunlight. I'm going to make lots and lots and lots of little strokes of this light green going across. Now I want to put some more darks in to make the dark areas that are dark at the moment actually look slightly lighter, because they are lighter than the darks I'm now putting in. The figure's almost complete. Now I want to take the same darks and place those around the basket here to give more form to the basket as well, and to get a feeling of texture in the basket. Now when I put some lighter colours in that basket in a moment and some other flowers, the basket will make more sense as well. So I'm going to take my smaller pointy brush and just go back into there with some very deep greens and darks, because we have colours here happening as well to give this feeling of these plenty of water in it, so I can get some fluidity on the brush. And let's see if we can now get the feeling of this corn that's growing up here, just like that. I've already got the basics of it because I painted it in earlier, if you remember, and some of those stems are coming down into here as well. A bit more corn just there first. As if we're actually like a field mouse, we're actually here and involved with it. I want her in amongst this lot. She's a part of the picture, not separate to it. It's a part of the whole scene. And you see we suddenly start to get the effect of a very tangled field full of poppies, don't we? Now, having done that, equally we need to come back with some of the lighter colours. We have some real yellow. I'm going to have to make it a clean area of my palette. Put a little touch of the orange into it. A little touch of the white to try and give me the brightness of yellow orange I need. And let's see if we can find some of these lovely yellow flowers that are just growing in and amongst. That's why they're reflecting underneath her hand there. We put some into the basket. Going on behind here as well, and a few just happening around her. To use some raw yellow ochre now, just to make those yellows seem a little more yellower, because the yellow ochre is more golden, and therefore it'll make the yellow seem a bit more yellow. The background, which I've missed out at the moment, is a very, very pale blue. I'm going to take another brush, another oval, and mix a little white with my cerulean. Well, let's just come back up into there with that. So if we can just find a bit of those blues that are happening back in there. While we're on those blues, we'll find a lot of them actually happening back in here as well, reflecting off the leaves, which is going to help those warmth of the poppies. Look at the lovely light we start to get now as we feel this daylight reflecting across shapes and forms and surfaces. Warmer on those fingers, bit of the arm here. Makes a difference. I've got to start feeling some of the cools that are going on in amongst the grasses here a little bit more of the blue happening in places, and that'll make the poppies stand out more as well. So, as you see, we're gradually bringing up the colours of the poppies now, and I want a bit more orange into those poppies, so I'm going to take some yellow and red and a little bit of white just to try and get that vibrance again of the If I take this into oils, it would take it a whole stage further, and I just have to decide whether I actually want that or not. Because it's quite effective as it is, and it's fairly low key. So I think all I need, if I'm going to keep it as acrylics, is a few more of these darks, and I could almost leave it at that. And I've got other things I want to get onto, so why not indeed? Just try and get a little more of these light pinks on here. It's very difficult to quite get this colour. I think maybe a bit of yellow into that. Let's see what that does and see if that gives me the colour I want. Got to get exactly the right colours, and if you get the right colours and put them in the right shapes in the right places, then suddenly things come to life, as hopefully this is doing right now. So this is rose, a little bit of cadmium red, a little bit of lemon yellow, and I'm just picking out the sunlight reflecting across petals, or trying to. Just seeing if we can lighten up some of these oranges just a bit. Just finally all these little spots of light. Just to lighten things up just a little bit. Okay, I think we'll call that painting finished unless I go on further with oils.